You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Minecraft Update podcast. It is, of course, me, FoxyNoTail, here to entertain you for another week with my best friend. Oh no, he's ill again. Oh jeez. We've got Jessiie B back standing in for Slack because Slack is still unwell. I think. I don't know if he got a positive COVID test or not. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, he's on the way back. He's mending. He did try to do a live stream the other day, and he said after about an hour he just couldn't cope with it. So he just wanted to take one more week off for health reasons, which is perfectly fine. So Jessie's back at late notice. Hello, Jessiie.
Hello.
How did you find it last week?
I loved it. It was really weird listening to the podcast since, I do every week.
Hearing myself. Even though you was on it.
Yeah, I only made it through about half before I was like, yeah, too weird.
Okay, fair enough. I wonder what they're going to talk about. Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
to be fair, I listen to them, but I obviously listen to it back when editing because I have to edit it. But then I do make a point to listen to the whole thing back edited as well, mainly just to make sure there's no mistakes in it.
Yeah.
Which kind of is a complete waste of time, especially when they're like 2.5 hours long. But yeah, not to worry. Did you get any comments from anybody? Has anyone said anything to you from your community?
Oh, really? I had many people in my last live stream actually talk about how it was really cool hearing me on the podcast and getting... the way they worded it was basically like, oh, a little person was on the thing and it was really cool. I was like, yay, I am one of the people.
Oh, I see. I don't see it like that at all. It's such a weird thing. I know, like, if you take a minute to step back and look at all of the like truly Bedrock members' YouTube channels, and you're like, oh, I can't believe they're only getting that many views because I work with them, and they're like, they're all me. Like that makes it. They're all me. I do all the voices, peeps. You've heard it here first. The truth is out there. No, they're all. You're my peers. I don't think there's any difference. I don't go, oh, I've got more subscribers than you, so I'm more important. I just like Jessie's one of my peeps from work. She's one of my friends. I don't even consider that you're getting slightly less views than I am. It's so weird that's the case, but obviously that's great if that's how you feel, and if that's how your community's feeling, then that's great. But yeah, don't even, from my point of view, it's just amazing for you to be here. I'm so honored that you're like, yeah, okay, I'll pop in. Yeah, no worries.
I think for at least my very specific case, they feel that way because most of the people in my community know that I was a fan beforehand. So, like, that's where they're coming from. They're not coming from it in the, like, oh, she's so little. Like, her channel's so little. Yeah.
How can someone as rubbish as you get on such a great podcast? I don't understand it, Jessie. Is that something like that, is it?
Yeah, no. It's more so, wow, like, someone who a year ago, 2 years ago, was just a fan, and now you get to sit down and talk with everyone. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, if I ever got into that situation with people that I aspire to, I don't say, no, that's so big-headed. Do you aspire to be me, Jessiie B? You know what I mean? You're like people I look up to, people I'm like, oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
I want to be in their club. Yeah, I think I'd probably feel the same. And I'm sure my community would be like, yay. Like, then Izuma tweeted me this week to be like, hey, your website's full of malware. And I'm like, no, it isn't. No. No. Oh, jeez. Thanks with your several thousand followers, several 100,000 followers. Just told everybody my website RJ's. It's not, guys, by the way. It's not. My website is fine. I have run many checks on it. What happens is certain malware scanning devices these days do something called a reputation analysis, and they go, hey, this piece of software hasn't been downloaded many times. Basically, we haven't found it on many other people's PCs. So therefore, it's probably dodgy. Don't use it. And you're like, no, it's not dodgy. It's just new, mate. It's okay. No, it's dodgy, mate. So they've started associating those bits of software with websites now. So now that, like, because I put software out, and it is really like a small user base, my few, like, people in the audience that actually bother to download these tiny bits of software and use them, it's a very, very small selection of people out of the whole world. So they get instantly marked as unreputable, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with them. It just means that they're not out there in the masses. And then they like programs like Malware Bytes, who I used to use regularly, come along and go, no, you can't use that, mate. No, delete it. Tell them all on Twitter that it's completely useless and you should avoid it like the plague. Oh, no, please. So, I mean, I had to delete Malware Bytes off my system in the end because it kept deleting all of my programming software. Yeah. So I've just made this amazing... oh, no, it's gone, guys. It's eating it again. Jeez. So, so that was fun. And then obviously people in my community are like, Zoom's talking to Foxy. Do you think there'll be a collab soon? And I'm like, unlikely, but I'd be up for it, mate. Even though you told everyone in the world and my website's completely riddled, it's fine. I'd still do a collab, mate. I'm happy about it. Jeez.
That would be one of those really like surreal moments, right? Because on one hand, you're like, oh, someone I've watched and someone I've, kept up with or have an opinion of. All of a sudden, it's like, nope. You're like, oh, dashed. And also like, oh, he saw me in one go.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how to feel right now. I'm sort of in limbo emotionally, but it kind of feels nice. Oh, geez. Right. Speaking of things that's happened this week, Jessie, what's happened for you this week? Oh, my goodness.
I have been having so much fun on TB. Sadly, mostly off camera because, my household got sick. And so we kind of just weren't feeling it, weren't recording. But thankfully, I was ahead. But I got so much done. I have been doing detailing. I've been working on my smelter, which is so funny because I saw your video of your smelter and you specifically mentioned the season 2 smelter in which you made for me. And well, in my video, I also went back to the season 2 smelter that you made for me. And I was like, you know what? This was the best smelter I've ever had. It's so simple and it's like small and easy and it does the job. And I was like, yep, we're going back. We're looking at Foxy's smelter and we're just going to try to replicate it. So I did that in my video and it was a lot of fun. One, because I'm not a redstoner. So trying to understand what you did coming from the eyes of someone who has no idea what anything was, it was really fun trying to replicate it without just messaging you and being like, Foxy, help me.
One of the reasons I wanted to go back in my video, I mean, I actually got a copy of the TB Season 2 World download, and for some reason when I loaded it up, it just, I don't know, maybe it was the version of 1.18 I wasn't playing, it was just completely corrupted, all of the chunks. It just replaced like 90% of them with 1.18 terrain. So I'm flying around going, my base is gone, spawn's gone. Oh, where's Jess? No, Jessie B's base is gone. I wanted to look at the smelter to remember how I did it, and I thought I can't be bothered to fix this, so I'll just try and remember how I did it. And I couldn't fully remember how I did it, but I came up with something that kind of worked. So yeah.
But I think it's kind of, it says something that's where we both went. Like you've done, I don't know how many smelters. You've made countless smelters, but that's the one, man. I like that one a lot. It was a good smelter.
Yeah. It was nice and convenient. It was just dead simple. And I kind of wish I got that smelter now. And now I've got this sort of massive mess of jumbled up minecarts and rail that goes. It's crazy, my smelter now. It's completely inefficient and completely useless, but it's entertaining as you watch the minecarts disappear off into space before they actually, hit the track. It's so weird.
It's really cool though. It's really a neat design. And as somebody who obviously puts a lot of stock into design, I think it's gorgeous. Sure, probably not the most efficient thing on the planet, but I think it's cool.
Well, I thank you so much, Jessie. I really appreciate that. I do. I genuinely do. Anyway, moving on from your smelter, I can see there's a couple more things in your list that you've done this week.
Well,
copying me again with your bee farm.
Yeah, I made a bee farm. I think I put it in all of 2 seconds of a video because I was like, you know what? We've seen bee farms. It's nothing special, but I worked on it because my base is filled with candles. Like, I don't know if you've seen my base at all. But
I haven't actually. I feel bad.
on
but I
the
haven't.
inside, it is so moody. Like that is the aesthetic I'm going for this season, like gothic-y, like dark mood lighting. So I thought, you know what? Candles. Candles are where it's at. And beautiful. Love it. However, I am needing so much beeswax. And I've bought you out of your string, I think, completely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's loads more where that came from. I've got chest upon chest and chests of string. So if you need more string, just come see me.
I will do that for sure, because I figure I'm going to need probably 2 shulkers worth of candles just for the hallways of my base. Like, that's how big and windy and everything my base is. So yeah, it's going to take a lot of work and just whittling away at it, and also terraforming to break up the monotony of doing hallways. So it's been a good week, I have to say.
Good. Oh, well, that's amazing. Yeah, bee farms are interesting. Do you know, I've never actually crafted a candle in Minecraft ever, not even in like test worlds or anything like that. It's just never something I've never bothered with. I had a couple. Yeah, I used a couple in creative mode when I was making some of the sets for my season 3 finale. But that's it. That's the only times I've ever used candles. So I still know barely anything about them. And I don't know what it is about them. It's not like I don't like them. I think they look great. I have no, it's like sea pickles. I don't have any, reason to use them. And I think the thing that probably annoys me the most about candles is that they turn off, don't they? And then they come back on again.
Yep,
and
they flicker.
But they don't flicker. Flickering is what candles do. Minecraft candles just slowly go out and then magically come back on again. It's the worst flickering I've ever seen. And when I was placing them in creative for these like sets, I was like, looking at, well, the candles have gone out again. So I'm going back into creative inventory, getting a flint and steel out, going over to it, and it like lights back on. I'm like, you troll, you absolute troll. Why do that? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I've not done that. So my bee farm that I made this week is not remotely efficient. Again, this season I'm trying to step away from like the most, well, I've never done the most efficient farms. You know me, I make big farms and I make a bit of a hoo-ha about it, but I've never been one of these, this is the most efficient farm in the world type people, because I'm not bothered about that. I want farms that work for me and that are reasonable at the scale that I'm playing for. So if I'm planning on making a shop for something, I'll make a big farm. If I'm just planning on using it myself, there's absolutely no point in having a giant farm, because you're just creating lag for no reason. You might as well just have a farm that's going to produce what you need, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so that's where I'm coming from this season. And for bees, the only reason I even want bees is honeycomb, because I want to get the achievement honeycomb in the copper or whatever it's called.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I thought, well, if I just make a little bee sanctuary rather than an actual bee farm, it's going to look nice. It'll fit into my base nicer, and it'd be fun as well to play with, and it'd be fun to make an episode out of. So yeah, and it'll give me a little bit of honeycomb over time. I'm not too fussed about it. I don't need honey blocks. So yeah, this is good for me. And if I do find out I need honey blocks in the future, then I can just make a proper honey farm somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, my week has consisted of making said bee sanctuary, as well as I made a moss farm, which I tried to make. Well, I didn't make that very fun at all, but it turned out to be a really good moss farm. I made a massive one in my creative test world, and then I'm like, no, this is too big. I can't actually get the moss items out of it quick enough to deal with them. So what I'm going to do is make a small one that's more compact, and it still actually absolutely chugs out moss stuff, which is amazing. And then I made a video all about diamonds, where to find diamonds, because I've been digging down at the lowest point in the world for ages, because we're all basing off where we're digging off these new like graphs and charts that Mojang put out when they were doing all the snapshots. And it says there's most diamonds is right down at the bottom of the world. And it's not true, Jessiie B. There's no diamonds down at the bottom of the world. Literally, at bedrock level, there is almost no diamonds. And that's where I've been mining and wondering why I'm not getting diamonds. So I did a big video on, I went into, again, creative copy of the world, took out massive chunks of the ground, like with commands, and then went and measured, literally went and counted how many diamonds there were using commands in 3 huge 128 chunk areas around the world, calculated it all, got the averages, and I found that most of the diamonds are somewhere between sort of like minus 58 and sort of minus 50. So I've found that actually mining with your feet at minus 55 or minus 56, I get loads of diamonds. I've been strip mining at that point. I strip mined for half an hour and got a stack and a half of diamonds. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then I thought, well, okay, let's go one up from that. Let's continue this video, but not just find out where they are, but let's find the most efficient method of going for diamonds. So I did like have you ever done it where you put yourself in water and swim and then you can insta-mine 1 block high deep slate if you're near a beacon? So I did that, which it turns out, you swim into lava pockets is not very much fun. I did the normal strip mining. I haven't done any poke hole stuff just because that irritates me. I know other people like it, and I made a point in my video, like, I know you're all going to be screaming at me for not doing poke holes, but I hate poke holes. And then I did like caving as well. So I did a whole bunch of different types of it, and I worked out which was, like, for me, the best one. So yeah, that was really interesting. It was really good fun. And now I've got quite a few diamonds from doing that. And I know, now I feel actually confident in 1.18 going to get more diamonds, because this is the thing that's been like in the back of your mind all the time. I'm going to need diamonds at some point, but I'm not confident where to go to get them. I've got this graph, but I'm trying and I'm not getting any. And I'm there thinking, if they just nerfed diamonds completely? No, they haven't. They just moved it about a bit and gave you false information with this graph. So yeah. And then I got somebody came into my Discord who had spent an absolutely ridiculous amount of time using some new, I don't know if it's a new programming language or what, but it's basically this programming language that someone called Rufus Atticus has spent time building scripts for Minecraft Bedrock Edition that allows you to actually analyze chunk data within the game. So this person's analyzed, I think it's 700,000 chunks or something crazy like that, and created distribution maps for all of the different ores and where they are. And I'm not sharing it yet because I would like my video to actually get some views before I share that information. Yeah. And my video comes out the day after this podcast comes out. But yeah, once my video's out, I've got a couple of views on it. I'll share this link to this stuff because it's incredible. And it does match up with pretty much what I found. Mine is a much smaller subset, and there will be the odd anomaly in there. But on the whole, it's pretty much identical to what they've found. So for diamonds, at least. That's good. That was really interesting. So, geez, I'm talking a lot about my week, Jessiie.
It's okay.
I've done some more base decoration, which I'm happy with, particularly outside the landscaping, my paths and stuff. Although I'm kind of feeling like I'm throwing too many blocks into the mix again, and I'm overdoing it. I don't want it to look like my Truly Bedrock Season 3 paths, which just look more like someone had thrown up than actual path work. But I think I'm just about getting away with it this season, although I feel like I need to hold back. So, as an opportunity to talk to somebody that's good at landscaping like yourself, what do you've seen? You've been in my live streams. What do you think?
Okay, so question. Are you specifically feeling like your paths are that way, or around your river, or around your like little
my whole sort of outside area, I guess, but it's mainly because I've been working on the paths, but I just feel it's very noisy and very messy.
I don't think so with your paths specifically. Your paths are looking gorgeous. I love what you've done so far. It is very, I won't even say noisy, because I don't think that it is. I think everything that you've done makes a lot of sense. It all flows, and it doesn't seem too busy for me. Especially when I look at your water areas, when you're next to your water areas versus your paths, there's a huge difference. I can definitely see where your brain is going with being like, it's too noisy around there. Around your water area, there's a lot of blocks. And to me, that's difficult because you don't know where to focus. So around water, you already have moving water. You have typically people use, cobble, stuff like that. So there's a lot of busy things for your eyes to focus on. So when it comes to that, I typically use about 5 or 6 different kinds of blocks for water areas, just so that your focus is the bigger picture and not like, oh, I have to look at that detail, or ooh, so you can just see the bigger picture. When it comes to paths and stuff, it's a lot easier to see the bigger picture because paths are wider, paths are tied into buildings, so you can use those different blocks to accent things. So that totally don't mind. But just little insight for the water areas is I typically think less is more there versus pathways and stuff.
I agree with you. I totally agree. And it was one of those situations, because I'm doing all of this on stream, that I knew I wanted to rough up the sides of the stream, because I wanted it to look a bit messy because it's a countryside build, and I was going to have hedgerows along the streams and fences and stuff like that, which is fine. But the more I did on stream, the more blocks people suggested, why don't you use this? Why don't you use this? Why don't you use... And to the point where I didn't have enough hotbar for all of the different variations of block I was using. And I'm thinking in my head, there's just too much going on here. But people were saying, oh, it's looking great. It's looking great. And when you look at that, at the contrast, because most of my base is just flat green grass at the moment. If you look at the contrast between that and that green grass, it looks just completely wrong. It stands out like a sore thumb. But I do, now that I've done some pathwork near it and I've got more going on, I do feel it fits better, but I still do think there's way too much going on there. So I might revisit these streams later on and take out a few blocks and replace them with some, less garish materials. But I think I might just take this as a lesson for next season and have a, be able to show progression rather than trying to do it all this one. I'm not sure.
I feel like you're always learning, right? Like, it's just, you're never going to learn unless you do it yourself. And for something that you're not used to, I think it's turned out great. And I don't think you necessarily need to switch it up if you don't want to, because you're right. Now that you've added more into it, it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, and it's not like obtuse or anything. So I don't think it's a big deal enough that you have to go change it at all.
No, we'll see what happens because the lower part of my base is going to be more it's going to be more of a town, sort of buildings and things. So it'd probably be naturally a little bit cleaner. So I think the rivers down there will look completely out of place, and I'll probably have to do something about it, but we'll see. We will see. Speaking of seeing, I can see there's been some feedback, Jessiie B.
Ooh.
Oh, look at that segue. It's like silk. That was smooth all the way into the feedback there. Wow. Well, do you want to take it in terms of feedback again? We've had a reasonable amount this week and a lot of questions as well. So if you like, Jessiie, would you like to start?
Sure. We got from the comments, Nathan Wickenden. Is that how you would put it? Wickenden.
Wickenden.
Yeah.
Wickedy, wow, wow, wickedy, wild, Wickenden.
There you go. Done. Yeah. Nailed it. Hope Mr. Lizard gets well soon. Good to hear a different voice on the podcast and hear their thoughts and opinions. Well, thank you. And yes, we do hope that Slack feels better soon. I hate that he's been so unwell. Yeah, same. It's awful. I mean, it's been 2 or 3, getting on for 3 weeks for him now, bless him. So it's not very nice at all. So I'm looking forward to him being back and also being back on the podcast. Yeah. But it's amazing that I've not just in these, but there's a lot of feedback saying it was great to hear Jessiie in the podcast from streams and things. So it would be nice to have maybe me or Slack ill more often so that you can stand in. Maybe we could talk about that later on down the line and see if we can, arrange some more illness for us all so we can rotate. Ram Power says, I have just recently started watching Jessie's videos. Before it was just Foxy, Silent as Loy. So I'm glad I heard this podcast. Got to know more about her. See, there you go. More people. Well, thank you for watching. And also, I'm glad that it has gone over well, because there's always that, inkling in the back of your mind where you're like, people don't like change. Even if it is for sickness, they're like, no. They're going to revolt.
Yeah. I'm the same. I hate it. And things change. No, I don't like it. I don't like actually, it's not so bad. Well, I kind of like this now. I don't like the old one anymore. The old one was rubbish. This one's loads better. And you go through like this phase, don't you, of,
Definitely.
Yeah, so I understand.
Purple Wolf. Speaking as someone who drives all day for work, I love the podcast as it is. I do also listen to live streams while driving, but then find myself going back to replay it when I get home, so I can see what I was hearing while driving. Yeah, I've done that many times.
I've got to say, I still don't watch hardly any live streams. I don't know what it is, but I guess it's that I'm probably sat in front of the computer all day recording, playing, editing something, and then when I finish that, I go sit on the sofa and I put on either TV or something that just I know I can zone out to and not really pay much attention to. Whereas if you're in a live stream, I can't, when I'm watching live streams, I can't help it, but I have to engage. I've got to be writing in the chat and I've got to make silly comments and things like that. And it's just, it's quite an effort. So I still find myself not really doing that. But I could imagine if I was back on the road again, I was doing a lot of driving for work, then maybe I'd probably think about doing that. But then I'd be tempted to watch it while I was driving, and that's not a good idea. So maybe not. Maybe not.
I noticed that for me with Evie, because she's so young, it's really easy to just put a stream on my phone while I'm playing with her or something, because it's a lot harder to get anything actually done. Like I can't play half the time or watch anything really that I'm interested in, like a show or anything with her here. So I know as like a mom to a young kid, I really like streams for that reason. And I know a lot of TB viewers feel the same way. Like it's just really nice to have it in the background while we're doing something that you can't really focus on.
Yeah, I think that's probably where my issue lies actually, because like I won't have the TV on in the background. I won't have the radio on in the background. I won't have music on in the background at home, because if I have anything, any source of audio or visual stuff, I have to concentrate on it. Like I know a lot of people at Christmas, they'll go and they'll put the TV on Christmas Day and it'll just be on in the background. And I just will sit and watch it. And I'm like, I don't want to watch this. It's rubbish. It's awful, but I can't not. It's where my brain goes to focus. So I don't think I could have a live stream on in the background, because I'd be wanting to focus on it, and then I would be annoyed. Let's say Oliver's in the room with me, maybe we're playing together. If I would be trying to listen to the live stream, or not even trying, but I would be like subconsciously trying to listen to it and then getting irritated with Oliver for talking to me when I'm like, I missed that bit. What did they say? And I feel like I've not seen it all or something. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit of a weirdo when it comes to stuff like that. So it's probably a good idea for me not to do these things. I don't know. I think it maybe comes down to, I don't know. I wasn't an only child by any stretch of the imagination, but I spent an awful lot of time on my own in my room doing my own thing. So I was always focused. And then like work-wise, I've only ever had one job that was in an office with other people in it, like working in a group of people. And then that job, I only did it for 3 months. They had a radio in the office and it was on my desk. Where the speaker was, and I'm like, look, I can't. You've hired me to do this job. I can't do this job with this radio on, because it's just in my ear all the day. And they're just like, shut up, man, and get on with it. And I did. I got on with it for 3 months, and I did work, and I got used to it. But it was such a relief coming away from that after that job that I've never gone back to doing that. So yeah, I think it's just a learned behavior for the last many years.
That makes sense.
Lucky Two says, get well soon, Mr. Lizard. Another great episode. Jessiie B is a fantastic co-host. The podcast has led me to start watching previous seasons of TV, which has been riotously entertaining. As a dude currently expanding a Stony Shore biome, finding good content to pass the grinding time is such a relief. That's cool. Thank you for that. And yeah, thank you for saying Jessie's a fantastic co-host. I completely agree with you. 100%.
Aww. Well, thank you.
You're
Windy
welcome.
Castle. I like that name. Is it Windy or Windy? Windy, right?
I think Windy. It does read as windy,
Yeah,
but I like Windy.
I asked for the manager and we got Jessiie. Coincidence? I don't think so. But I forgot what I had to ask. On another note, the same subject always keeps coming back to the podcast at the feedback section. I don't really know if I like it or not. What's your opinion on it? Ooh.
See, I don't know what they're referring to here. Maybe it's just my incredibly bad memory. It probably is. But I feel like every week the feedback seems to be quite relevant to the last thing we had. I know we had quite a lot of feedback over the last few weeks about like YouTube sharing tutorials or doing tutorials and things like that. That went on for a while, but I've made a point to ignore any like feedback as much as possible that are quite clearly at older episodes now. But is that what they're referring to?
It does seem like the same subjects kind of get rehashed. Sometimes it's what you're saying, where it's like, okay, they're giving feedback on like 2 episodes ago, and so it comes back up. But I think that's just kind of the nature of Minecraft, right? We only have so much. So an example would be talking about the same bugs. Like, for instance, you guys brought up the lighting bug, and then I brought it up last week, and it's like, okay, there are a lot of the same things that do get rehashed. But I think as time goes on, this is a new podcast. You guys have done how many episodes now?
This is the 7th, I think.
Yeah. So as time goes on, I think it will happen less. But in the early stages, when you guys are getting a handful of feedback comments right now, it'll even out, I think, is the best way to say that. I don't think that is a problem that will continue throughout forever.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's true. And like you said there, being a newish podcast, the last couple of weeks, I haven't specifically gone out of my way to remind people in the Discord to leave feedback or ask questions and stuff, because we have been getting some naturally from the comments and in the emails, which is absolutely fantastic. But it is still a very small number of people that are obviously listening to this. So it is going to be similar stuff. And yeah, we do talk about the same things some weeks because we get a different angle on it. Like Jessiie being here got a completely new or fresh opinion on things that we've talked about before. And the other thing is, again, what Jessiie just said there, Minecraft is really limited. If we were doing this on gaming as a whole, or on YouTube content creation as a whole, or something like that, then fair enough, we got a whole lot more news and stuff we can pull from, a lot more opinions we can have on things. But this is Minecraft, and while we try and keep up to date with Minecraft and talk about relatively new stuff that's going in Minecraft, hence the Minecraft Update podcast, there's just some weeks, particularly after Christmas, where there's very little news, there's very little going on, there isn't a great deal to talk about. So we're having to sort of elaborate more in the sections like feedback and questions, where we might get repeating questions, we might get repeating feedback, so that we've got something to give opinions on and talk about, which might not be the best way to do things, but it's either that or you get like probably a 35-minute podcast, which probably wouldn't be all that entertaining, I wouldn't have thought. Who knows? Well, thank you, Wendy, for pointing that out. I think it is a good thing to point out, and it's a good thing for us to be aware of. Khaleesi, Blue Shigatsu says, very good. It was lovely to see. Oh, sorry. I'll start that one again because that's completely wrong. She didn't say any of those things. Very good. It was lovely to have Jessiie on this week. I hope Slack feels much better soon. Thank you, Blue. Again, Jessiie, lots more for your ego there.
I know, right? Victim born. Great hearing Jessiie B on the show. I'm sure Slack is sad for missing it. Feel better soon, Slack.
Yeah, lots of love for Slack and lots of love for Jessiie. I'm not feeling much love my way here, though. Maybe, it's just... Oh, look at Jessiie and Slack. Oh, it's all about... No, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that people are happy to have had you on the show, and I'm so glad that they're obviously wishing Slack well. I don't wish ill of either of you. Rusty Shackleford with the longest messages in the world. This is in response to us talking last week about driving with music on, or when music auto plays in your car. Rusty says, as someone who used to have an hour drive each way to work, I found it's better to have an old school iPod. I bought a 6th gen 80 gig. Oh, geez. I bought a 6 gigabyte jet. I don't understand what that says. There's just words and numbers there that make no sense. Basically, they bought an old iPod off eBay and have loved it since. It doesn't autoplay. No one can interrupt what I'm listening to by calling it because it doesn't have that capability. Best of all, it's not touch-based. It has the D-pad navigation that lets me navigate by clicking buttons and never have to look at the device. You can even get battery and storage upgrades so it lasts for ages on a single charge and won't have the SADs if you drop it. You can even mod them to output via Bluetooth. I hope this message isn't too long. I would recommend a second-hand iPod if your phone annoys you that badly. See, okay, going back in the olden days, what I used to do is I have it wasn't an iPod, but it was an MP3 player that I would plug into like a headphone jack that went into a tape, and that went into the tape player in the car. And that was great, because if I didn't want to listen to the music back in those days, I could, for a start, the stereo I had an off button, which was fantastic, or I could eject the tape and it wouldn't play it, Whereas now it's all integrated into the car. If I don't plug my phone in and use my phone for Android Auto, then the car will just automatically play the radio, which I don't want. There's no way in my car to turn it off. Even if you fully shut down the system, which turns off your satellite navigation, it turns off all of the car features, it will still come on next time you get in the car and start playing music at you, which is annoying. When you plug your phone into it, which I prefer because I get Google Maps, which is way better than what Honda have got built in. I get access to my actual apps where I like to listen to music rather than the horrendous radio stations. And then it will just pick some at random. So there is no way to solve that problem. If I had an iPod, first of all, I can't plug it into the car because there's no sockets anymore for me to plug them into. And second of all, it would still just pick some random thing to play before I plug the iPod in. And it's not for me, that's not a viable solution, Rusty, sadly. But thank you very much for the feedback. What about you, Jessie?
I think it would probably work in my car, but I think it's the same problem that you said. Like, I would just have to leave the iPod in there all the time, never unplug it. So then when it came on, it would just play where I left off. But that doesn't feel like a like the best solution. But I get it. Like, it would be a solution if I couldn't figure out how to get my thing just to stop, like power off all the time. But it just seems like jumping through a hoop just when they could fix it by not auto playing stuff. Like,
wouldn't that be good?
Just don't autoplay.
No.
Ooh, Rusty Shackleford again. So in the comments of episode 5, which was read in episode 6, I dunked pretty hard on mobile players. I do agree they are likely the vast majority of Bedrock players, but in my opinion, I don't think that's a good excuse for the devs to hold back features. I think it's fair to say the vast majority of those players are also younger than 10 and play creative. Based on the achievements percentages, 39.62% of players have opened inventory, and 25% have smelted an iron ingot. It just continues downhill from there. Would it be a bad move for the devs to just omit the offhand from touch controls? They already have not perspective toggle or pick block. Why not skip offhand? What's your take? Wow. I didn't know the percentages were that low. That I think does say a lot. That seems.
Yeah.
I don't know how to word nicely what I want to say. I get it. I get that Bedrock players as a whole seem to be younger, and as a whole seem to play a lot of creative. I want offhand. That's just I want offhand.
For me, I think this feedback is another prime example of people only looking at it from their own perspective and then using numbers to try and push that perspective without really considering it. And Rusty, don't take that as an attack. It's absolutely not. But you're saying 39.62% of people have even opened inventory. Okay, that means 60% of players have never even opened their inventory. You have to consider that not everybody has played online. So those statistics are only affecting people that are logged into their Minecraft account have played online. You also have to consider that there are probably, I would say, I don't know the exact figures, but I would say probably at least getting on for 1 billion, must be nearly 1 billion people have that. In fact, we can find these numbers. Let's pause. Well, don't pause it, but let's just look a minute. Minecraft Bedrock sales. I'm looking for. I don't know an up-to-date one, but there's an article here from 2020 that says over 200 million sales of Minecraft Bedrock Edition have been sold. So 2 years later, we've got the prime of Bedrock's life at the minute, more and more. So let's say that's getting on for 250, maybe even 300 million copies of that sold. That means there's still like a ridiculous number of people that have opened inventory. So those numbers seem small, but on the scale of things, they're actually really big. If 25% of 300 million people have opened an iron or smelted an iron ingot, that's still, hang on a minute, math, 300 million times 0.25, 75 million people smelted an iron ingot, right? So that's still a lot of people. So you look at those numbers and think, okay, they're small numbers. You compare that to Java Edition. That article I was looking at says that only 30 million people have downloaded Java Edition. So
that's crazy.
It's ridiculous. It is crazy. It's completely ridiculous. So you can't look at those figures and look at that as a small subset of people. It's a massive amount of people. You're also saying that the people that use touchscreens are likely to be under than 10 and play in creative mode, which again is really generalizing based on your experience of the player base. Don't forget that the Minecraft is a worldwide game. It's played in China. It's played in third world countries. Not many people in a lot of those places will have access to consoles or PCs, and touchscreen is probably the only way they can play. To say that they're all under 10 years old and only play creative is a really, really bad generalization, and I don't think it's true. I would say that a lot of players, particularly in the Western world and the more developed players, will have access to consoles or PCs or ways of playing without touchscreen. And likely the younger players are the ones that play with touchscreen. But to generalize in that extent without the facts and figures, I just think is fake newsing over it to get your own point across, which is likely wrong. I do agree with you that we should have that ability to have that in game regardless, and not necessarily say, hey, you can't use it because you're on a touchscreen, but just find an alternative. Maybe they don't want to clutter the screen, but maybe they have a button that says, hey, click this button to clutter the screen so you can have access to these things if you really want it. Maybe make it toggleable or something like that. But going back to, again, what we said previously, Mojang or Mojang, whatever they're called, are really good at coming up with really unique ways of solving problems. So I'm sure if they really wanted to do it, they could solve that problem. I don't think the touchscreen thing is the only reason they're holding back, or at least I hope it's not.
I think that's a good point. I think it will always come down to, confirmation bias, right? Like you're right. Having to say, these numbers, they look awful. But you're right. When I even reacted to the comment, I didn't think about the fact that 25% of 300 million is still so huge. And that's crazy. So and bearing in mind again, that's only people that are playing online. So there'll be a huge portion of the people that have bought the game that don't play it online, that haven't logged in with their Xbox Live account. Like Oliver on his iPad, he's been playing it for years, but they've only just logged him into his own Xbox Live account so that he can join other stuff and go on the marketplace and things like that. So he's been playing for a long time without statistics being gathered from him. So, yeah, you're right. It's a crazy thing to think about when you look outside yourself. And I will say about the last part of the comment, I think I just can't think of a reason why having something be toggleable wouldn't be an option unless there was something major that they're trying to avoid. I feel like at this point, Mojang doesn't just do things like, oh, everyone wants offhand, but we're just not going to give it to them. I feel like there has to be something there that we're just not aware of. We just aren't privy to the information.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of these things. Is that a lot of it is frustration because we don't know the decisions as to why. Why is they not done this? Why have they not? And I'm sure there are more reasons. It could just be that it's not a valuable use of their time. They might consider that it's not worth it, the actual effort to go into changing the mechanics of the game on that level, all of the potential problems it could cause, all of the bugs that it could create, considering how hot the community is on Bedrock Edition bugs and how buggy the game has been. Do they really want to open that can of worms? Are they better off just going, do you know what, let's avoid that for now and get the game into a good state before we start fiddling with big mechanics like that? I don't know. Anyway, moving on from that one, Uri says, great episode. Please get more people. We need more people, Jessie. How many should we get, do you think?
32.
32 people in a podcast. I'd never get a word in. It's no good at all. I don't know, Uri, if you mean get like more guests in, or should we have like 3 of us here at once or 4 of us? I don't know. But yeah, get more people. I like it. Very to the point.
I feel like they probably mean have different people.
Yeah, I think so.
But, how funny would that be? Just like a gaggle, get all of TB in one podcast.
Yeah.
Basically,
wow.
just record one of our TB meetings. That's fine.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll make sure we do that. Jeez. Right.
Faded Daddy-O. Even if full parity is achieved between Java and Bedrock, there's a place for both, and they should both exist. Java allows mods, and previous versions, Bedrock does not. From
Very true.
Faded Daddy-O. I really like that name. Daddy-O.
Daddy-O.
Daddy-O. Sorry.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So let's say you've got 2 identical versions of the game. One can be played on pretty much every single device that ever existed, and one can only be played on PC, or I think, can Java be played on Linux now?
Oh, I can't remember. Know.
But anyway, so one you can mod, and the other one you can only have add-ons and things. Great. All you've done there is you've gone, okay, this is modded Bedrock. Oh no, this is modded Minecraft, and this one's unmodded Minecraft. Java Edition is no longer has any point to itself other than being moddable, which is fine, but I don't think the developers would consider that a reason to keep developing the game. I think that at that point, that's when the game becomes a community game, and when the developers go, we're not dealing with this anymore, and the community takes over and goes, hey, let's continue developing the game, and it goes all kinds of haywire, and yeah. But it's a good point. What do you think, Jessie?
I think that for the foreseeable future, there's going to be 2 versions of the game. And I think putting too much focus on there not being or I think it's really easy to get stuck in the fight between parody and everything else. And I don't know. I feel like there will be 2 versions of the game for the foreseeable future. And when there isn't, we will hear about it in great, great detail.
Yep. There is offhand Minecraft and non-offhand Minecraft. And these are the 2 versions that exist.
Yep, exactly.
Waffle779 says, it turns out clips take the shared section of the video, limited to 30 seconds, and create a link that loses the section you want to share. Oh, I can't post links here. Oh, geez, this is from my Discord. Then Nom Nom, sorry, Jessie, I'm going to take over now.
No, you're fine.
Nom Nom says, yeah, clips give views to the original creator and they aren't uploaded to your channel. It's simply a link. And then I thought, you know what? There's a lot of miscommunication on these YouTube clips. We've talked about it a couple of times over the last couple of podcasts, and even me and Slack and Jessie had no idea what was going on. Waffles, you're absolutely wrong. Nom Nom, you're absolutely kind of right. I've discovered today I went on a little mission to find out exactly what clips are about, and YouTube give you no information at all other than go, you can clip other people's stuff and share it, which is fantastic, but they don't tell you where the views go, where the clips are stored, how to access them, any of that. And it's actually a really simple thing. So what I did was I logged into my second account. I watched a video from my main account and I clipped my main account. When you clip it, you can choose up from 5 seconds up to 60 seconds worth of that video to share. And it comes up with a little link that you can either post on Twitter or social media or somewhere that you can share that. And that link will link back to the original video, but with the screen blanked out and just playing that segment of the video with a big button that says watch full video on it. The clips are not publicly available anywhere. There's no list of clips that have been made, and you do not get a notification as the channel owner that you have been clipped. And no notification at all came through. There was no message anywhere on my YouTube Discord for either accounts to say that there had been a clip made. There was no part of my second channel where it would show that there was a clip. Oh my goodness, there's someone at my door. Jeez, 1 second. Sorry, Jessie.
You're fine.
Okay, so clips, there's no notification on your channel or the second channel to say that there has been a clip. All you literally get is this link, and that link just links back to the original video. So excuse me, no one else is getting views. No one else is getting subscribers. It all goes back to the original channel, which is fantastic. And that actually makes, for me, clips seem like quite a cool and interesting thing.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I wish that YouTube was a little more clear about that, but that's pretty cool. I feel like that would be really useful for things like the other day in your stream when you wanted to see your path and I was like, oh yeah, you have to go to this time. I could have just clipped it. Would have been simple.
Exactly. And then you can share that in your Discord and people can go back to it. The only question I got about that is YouTube are really hot on, for analytics wise, how much of a video has been watched, the retention.
Yeah.
So you've got this, basically this trade-off is it doesn't really matter how many views you get to your video. It's how the quality of those views, how long those people are stuck around for, which bits of the video they watched. So if you've got clips of your video and that like 60 seconds has done really well because it's been clipped, is that going to give you an overall less retention, though, because people have only watched 60 seconds of potentially a 20 to 30 minute long video? Or is YouTube clever enough to realize that?
Yeah.
You know, or are they hoping people click on the big watch the full video button and watch the full video because they've watched the clip? I don't know. It's a bit tricky. But basically, if that's the case, then you're relying on whoever's clipping your video, which can be anyone in the world, to understand that, you know, the bit they clip needs to lure people into watching the rest of the video, and it might not necessarily do that. It might be a really bad part of that video that people, for whatever reason, have clipped it and shared it, and that's put people off watching your video. So the swings and roundabouts there, and I think overall it sounds like a good thing, but it's something to probably take with care, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe keep an eye on. Like, it'd be really interesting if you go back and then you can see, you know, in your analytics where you have spikes. If you notice, oh, all of a sudden I'm having a lot more spikes one part, maybe it's a clip, maybe it's something like that. It would just be really interesting to see how it affects the analytics in general.
It would, and that would be great if they told us that bit had been clipped, but they didn't tell us that bit's been clipped. So there's no way to know. If you start seeing spikes in your analytics, you might be thinking, oh, that people just really enjoyed that bit of the video, which I guess if someone's clipped it, they did, but we don't know if it's been clipped. So yeah, I think YouTube probably needs to give the creator of the original video at least a little bit more, hey, this part of your video has been clipped, you know, like, hey, this video has been clipped. Click on this for more info to find out which part of it's been clipped would be really useful. But I guess this is probably one of those, like, we're just sort of trialing this. We're not going to give you too much information. We'll see if people like it or not before we make it into a full feature. I don't know. Right. Plod says, no, it's not me. It's Jessiie.
Oh, well, you said you were taking over.
Well, only for that bit, because I got all excited about clips. Now we have the, you know, official information. It's been tried and tested.
Plod. I wonder what other people do when listening to the podcast. I find it a great, my brain, a compliment. For caving. I could not read that word to save my life. I got a stack and a half of diamonds during the last episode. Lovely to hear, Jessiie B. Hope Slack feels better soon.
Oh, Plod, you've been mining at the wrong level, my friend. You only got a stack and a half of diamonds in an over 2-hour podcast. Oh, geez, you need to be mining at level 55 or 56, my friend. It's the only way. Jeez.
More diamonds.
I do wonder what other people do when listening to the podcast. Me and you kind of briefly gone over, well, live streams and stuff today. I generally do it while I'm either driving or walking the dog. That's my favorite time to listen to a podcast.
Yeah, for me, it's either driving or when I go for my walks. I think it's wonderful just having it in, like, my earbuds in.
Yeah, and then you get an old lady that's walking her dog that comes to you and her mouth's moving. You're like, oh, all I can hear is my podcast. I have no idea what you're saying. So you're just nodding there, fiddling with your hand, trying to get your earphone out, but you can't because the dog's, oh, geez, and just feel really rude when you walk away. That's happened too many times now. I need to start listening to it like quieter, but I like to have it loud so I can hear it. So, yeah, maybe not the best idea to listen to them while we're on walks. Jeez. Okay, well, that's it for feedback. If you want to leave us some feedback, then please send an email to theminecraftupdatepod@gmail.com and put feedback in your subject line. If you don't want to send us an email for any reason, you can, of course, come to my Discord or Slack's Discord, or just leave a comment on the YouTube video if you're watching, if that's where you're watching/listening to this podcast. And moving on from the feedback, we're going straight into the news. And there hasn't been a massive amount of news this week, but what there has been really interesting. And we're going to start with the least interesting things first. The first least interesting thing is that the latest beta for Minecraft Bedrock Edition, which is 1.18.10.28, was released this week, and it had not much in it at all. There was just a few fixes, which makes me believe that the next hotfix, or the next part update 1.18.10, is going to be landing with us very soon.
Yeah.
So hold on to your XP furnaces, because they're going away, my friend. What do you think, Jessie?
As annoying as that it is for me that they're going away, I think it's probably a good thing. I mean, it was very obviously a bug. It was not supposed to give you endless XP, but I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss him so much.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of strange, isn't it? Because it's like on modded Minecraft, you can get some mods that allow you to actually store XP, and you can store it in a container and then go back to it and use it when you need to. And that's kind of this, although we're getting infinite amounts. But to be fair with you, there is enough going through my furnace that if it was all stored up and I could just take as much as I needed at a time rather than the full lot, it would probably last me a very long time. I think the flaw in the system is that with these furnaces is you can run a whole lot through it, and you take it once and it's all gone and you're starting back from square one again, which can be quite frustrating if you don't need all of those levels there, or if you're good at dying like I am. I really enjoyed playing with this book because I didn't realize how freeing it is. You're not having to worry about your armor too much or re-enchanting things, because that's a grind that you do. The first few times you do it, it's interesting and it's fun, but after you've done it a few times, it just becomes an irritation. If it's like, I've got to do this before I can carry on doing what I want to do. So yeah, having this sort of unlimited XP system, which means, XP at that point is relatively pointless. Does it mean that the system as a whole needs changing? Do you think that, if people have enjoyed it this much and people are using it as much as they are, which everybody seems to be, do Mojang need to look at this and go, actually, do you know what, we need to really rethink this XP system, because why were so many people taking advantage of this if the proper system is good enough?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the best example of why it's so used is we just, on Bedrock specifically, we don't have things like the enders that work, super, super well like Java has. Or I think the best thing we have for XP is probably Guardian farms, right? And that's that's really difficult to do.
It is, and then that only any good if you're throwing splash potions of harming at them. If you're using a sword, it's not much fun at all.
No. I just think that for specifically our case, it seems like we don't have a good alternative, and they're taking the thing that made Bedrock a lot more what I'm trying to say, a lot less grindy, because as you said, it's really nice not having to worry about my pick dying every 5 minutes of mining, especially now that deep slate is a thing. It's really frustrating. And
I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah. That's basically what I use my XP furnace for, is I don't worry about the deaths and the levels and that stuff. I worry about mending my pick.
Yeah.
And not having the offhand capability, to heal things, makes it a grind. It makes it really, really difficult to heal things like picks.
That's right, because if you're on Java Edition and you can go around fortuning ores holding your Silk Touch pickaxe in the other hand, and it's going to get mended. So And this leads on to something I forgot to put in the notes this week, and it's something that really concerned me, actually. And I don't know if we spoke about it on the podcast last week, or maybe it's a conversation I had on a live stream. But basically, King B Dogs, our prolific Twitterer, who is well known for his Java Edition development now, he's the creator of the Deep Dark and the Warden and all of that sort of stuff, has started poking around in Minecraft Bedrock Edition. And they put a tweet out this week saying, basically, there are two ways of glitching XP in Minecraft Bedrock. One was killing, I think it's evokers, and the other one was another mob that was withers. Apparently withers and evokers will give XP regardless of whether they've been killed by a player or not. And he was saying that he believes players are probably exploiting both of those things to get free XP, and that's wrong because this is the reason he's adding this new skulk way of getting XP in to stop players trying to glitch XP all the time.
Wow.
And he's obviously wrong, because who in the right mind would be trying to kill evokers without killing them? That's just absolutely crazy. And the other thing he obviously hasn't realized and noticed is that trident killers exist on Bedrock Edition, which act as player kills, which give you XP. My concern there is if he's poking around at this sort of level looking for things that people are cheating to get XP out of the game for free, how long have we got left with trident killers?
Oh, man.
And he's obviously still completely unaware of the massive, vast differences between Java and Bedrock in terms of being able to gather XP in the first place. It's very much he's come in with a banhammer going, hey, no, but not actually looking around and seeing what bugs he's squashing. So that really concerns me. I think he needs to have a sit down with a Bedrock player or a Bedrock developer at some point and just find out exactly what's going on there, so that, we don't all of a sudden end up without anything at all.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting when people who don't play Bedrock have a bunch to say about Bedrock in general. It happens all the time. You see it on Twitter. You see it everywhere. People just complaining, oh, Bedrock this, Bedrock that. And we're like, have you played? Have you done it? Because unless you have, I think it's really hard to just sit back and judge it, because we love it. I love Bedrock Edition. I know you enjoy Bedrock Edition, but we love it despite, like, in spite of all of these things that make it more difficult for us. It's just like, I don't know. I think that there's a lot that you can't understand from an outsider's point of view. And I really hope that they either give us just really good alternatives for XP, or they just leave us alone. Like, yeah,
absolutely.
Leave my XP gathering alone, unless you're giving me something that's better. Just that's my
exactly. If you're not fixing my game, stop taking things away from me. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Right, from betas to snapshots, Java Edition had their first 1.18.2 snapshot. I don't think it was their first 1.18.2 snapshot, but their first snapshot of this year. And Adrian Ostergaard wrote on Twitter, the first snapshot of the year. We're heading towards 1.18.2 to fix a few issues. And after that, it's full speed ahead towards the Wild Update. Enjoy. And this particular snapshot included a new command that the Java Edition peeps can now use in-game called Place Feature. And that allows the players to actually place features into the game. Like when world generation runs, it doesn't just create terrain. It goes through a whole algorithm of like, this is this biome, we're in this particular chunk, we need to grow a tree. What type of tree? It's this tree. And it gets this information from a feature set. It's called a feature. And the same thing occurs on Bedrock Edition. Bedrock has a whole folder called definitions, and within that there's a folder called features, and it's got everything that the world creates in terms of the little bits of added extra you get in your world rather than just terrain. So the fact that they can then, the players can go into creative and just place these features wherever they want in the world is absolutely fantastic for map makers. I think it's brilliant. You don't just have to bone meal a sapling now to grow a tree. You can place whatever tree you want, and it's not just trees, it's all of those sorts of things that get it added in sort of during world generation, but after the terrain's been added in. So I think that's fantastic, and I would really like to see that on Bedrock Edition.
Yeah, that's cool. Does that include things like dead bushes and stuff?
Yeah, all of those sorts of things. All sorts of foliage, flowers, stuff like that. Yeah.
See, that's really interesting. I don't know much about the differences in technical stuff when it comes to Java and Bedrock. I know obviously there's a lot of stuff that Java can do that we can't, blah, blah, so on and so forth. But I always hear stuff about their betas and their snapshots and stuff being like completely different. But things like that, where now they're using the same sort of language, it's really interesting to think that, oh, maybe we could get that kind of thing. That would be cool.
I can't see why not. I don't think it would be a massive thing for the Bedrock team to do, to be able to, because obviously that's already happening during world generation, to just give us a command that did that in game. I can't see that being a big problem, but obviously I'm not a developer, so I don't know. I don't want to speak for them too much. But
yeah.
If in my eyes, if the code already exists to do that function, just being able to call that function remotely surely shouldn't be a tricky thing to do, but who knows? Okay, those are the itty bits of news. The big news this week was that we got a really, really deep look into the Deep Dark, more specifically the Warden, the making of the Warden. Mojang released a video last week, which was the secrets of how we're making the Warden, which didn't actually give any secrets on how they're making the Warden at all, or at least we don't think it did. Maybe there were some references we don't know about because we haven't got the full picture yet. But what it did do is it went on a really interesting journey of all of the, or not all of the, but some of the iterations of what they went through to start creating the Skulk and the Warden and design stuff that they went through. And it was really, really interesting. The Skulk itself started off as a rust-like block that would steadily corrupt the environment. Then they thought, what if we make them all out of bones and bone type things? And then they had a few different phases where it looked almost like the corruption from Terraria. If you've played Terraria, Jessie, I don't know.
I haven't, actually.
Okay, well, in Terraria, I think it's if you're playing on like normal or hard difficulty, there's different areas of the world. And the one in, depending on which, I won't go too much into it, but basically when you load the world, you can get one of two types of world. And one of them has something called corruption. And the corruption actually spreads throughout the game. And you've got to, I can't remember what you have to do in the game, but you can stop corruption from spreading and you can sort of send it back a bit. And that's kind of like what they were doing with these things in Minecraft. The idea was that it would corrupt. And one of the graphics said it's a disease that makes holes in regular blocks until they're hollow. And there were purple ones and black ones and all sorts of really interesting designs. Then they moved on to something called, I think it's trypophobia.
Yep, trypophobia.
According to Google, is the fear of repetitive patterns of closely packed holes or protrusions. And they had a whole design of the Skulk stuff based on that, and even the Warden based on that as well. And that was really interesting. It looked gross. It looked completely wrong. It looked more like a Yeti, to be honest with you. But
it did. It really looked like a Yeti.
Yeah, I found all of that really fascinating. So before we go on to the different variations of the Warden, Jessie, you've just watched this video before we started doing this, right? Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts on the Skulk stuff?
I really liked the rust idea. I mean, I don't know much about the shulk and like all the stuff that it can do, because none of us do. But the idea when it first started, like that really pretty like mock-up, yeah, like that burnt orange color, that looked so cool. And just the idea of like a rust thing made sense to me. Like it's not outer worldly or anything. It just is, natural. And that was a cool idea. But seeing as how I don't think that's what they were going for, like they really wanted an alien feel, like, and by alien, I just mean like not of like the overworld type. It makes sense that they went a different direction, but I really liked all the mock-ups, like seeing how it progressed and how it changed over time was a really cool insight to the way that they design things. Obviously, we see things when they're so much further down the line. I personally really like seeing the insight. I like seeing the evolution of things. So that was really cool for me.
Yeah, the same here. And it just sort of, again, before we get onto the Warden stuff, and there's a whole like Twitter thread from King B Dogs that we're going to touch on as well. But if you think about they first demoed the Warden at the Deep Dark stuff well over a year ago at the Minecon Live, or whatever it's called these days, the live event in 2020. and they were already at the stage where they had the right shape for the Warden and the right block. So how far back are they going to do all of this stuff? It's amazing how long they work on features. And it just gives you a really good sort of appreciation for how much work and time goes into these features that goes into the game. And King B Dogs does touch on that a little bit later on, which we'll cover. And yeah, the Rust stuff, going back to that, one of my favorite things from Minecraft Dungeons is the Rust-like blocks. There's occasionally...
Yeah, I agree.
It's gorgeous. And I want that in the game so much, but it isn't in the game. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, man.
We could have had it.
Yeah. Oh, please. At least they're thinking about it. Maybe it'll come with something else at some point. So then they went on to talk about the Warder and the Warden and the Warden's past. And there's some interesting things that came out of this. Originally, it was going to be called the Stalker, then the Hollowed, and then they said the Warden. And they made a point in that video to say, we're not allowed to tell you why yet. So, you know, what does Warden mean to you, Jessie?
To me, it's like a guardian. Like a warden is somebody who's looking over everything. So for me, my initial like gut reaction to it would be somebody who's protecting something. So that is what. Yeah, that is where my brain goes.
Doing a quick Google search, you're pretty much exactly right. According to Google, a warden, or the word warden, means a person responsible for the supervision of a particular place or activity, or for enforcing the regulations associated with it. In British, it can mean the head of certain schools, colleges, or other institutions, and it can also mean a prison officer. All of those things. Yeah, it's so when they said we're not allowed to tell you why yet, makes me wonder what else they're hiding there, because we know that it's going to be down in the deep dark, and we know that it's going to hate the player, but it's obviously going to be protecting something. One of the other things they really made an effort to point out was that it's got souls in its chest. So is it protecting? Is it guarding souls? Are we going to be able to get souls? And if you look at, again, Minecraft Dungeons, one of the big things on there, a lot of the artifacts relies on souls. The players gather souls in order to use these souls for weapons. So are they going to be adding that mechanic into Minecraft? So that's something that could be absolutely amazing if that's true. And I want that. Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that would be a route that would be really unique. It's not something that is everywhere, and it could be really well done and cool. So I would be all for it. I still think that somehow we're getting an end to something, man. I think it's protecting end portals. The only thing that makes me think maybe I'm wrong is in that video, they said that you never have to go there. You never have to go there if you don't want to go there. So it makes me feel slightly like it might not have anything to do with like new strongholds or something like that, because you do have to go there if you want to beat the game.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a little bit of a disappointing blow when they said that. You don't ever have to encounter or engage with the stealth systems. And the other thing that came out about that was stealth systems. I mean, is sneaking really a stealth systems? Are they going to give us a roll? Can we silently roll from one piece of cover to the other? Or is it just talking about sneaking?
And the big thing is the smell. What does that mean? That seemed like it came out of nowhere.
That has been touched on before.
Has it? Maybe I just totally passed it over. But yeah, them talking about sense of smell was really interesting to me.
Yeah, I think it might have even been the last Minecraft Live, or they basically said that it's not just going to be listening out for these blocks. So there's basically two types of blocks now, isn't it? Or there's loads of different types of blocks, but there's two types of blocks that help alert the Warden. There's the Shulk the Shulk Catalyst is what makes the Skulk growth. There's the Skulk Shrieker, and there's the Skulk Sensor. And the Skulk Sensor picks up on players' movement and placing blocks and things like that, and that sends vibrations out to a Skulk Shrieker, which is, if there's too many of those go off, wake up the Warden. And the idea was, well, it's okay, we'll just stay still until the Warden goes away. But what they said is, no, the Warden will smell you out. It can smell the player. So even if you just hide, it will come and find you. So that's sort of, you've got to run away type thing or take it on. You've
so
got
terrifying.
Yeah, and I really like this idea.
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely fantastic. But it does make me wonder exactly how they imagine in stealth systems. I think they just sneak everywhere, really, really slowly sneak. Oh, thanks, mate. I like this stealth stuff. What if I have to drop down a whole block? Oh, run. So yeah, coming from that, then King B Dogs then put out a massive Twitter thread, and then some various tweets after that, all talking about previous iterations of the Warden. And his first one, I'll read it in full, said, "For those curious why some features in vanilla Minecraft take some time, I hope the recent behind-the-scenes content concerning the Warden's development help give context. Point in case there are even more Warden iterations and concept art we haven't even shown." So obviously there was a good amount of time building up to even where they got to show the stuff on that video that they thought was, good enough stuff to show on video. So there's even more time there in that sort of development. I know the developers get a lot of flack for why does it take you so long to build these things? I can build an add-on for that in 10 minutes. Well, yeah, you're building the finished product. You're building the thing that they said they're going to do in the end, you're not starting from the beginning with the whole process. So it's an interesting look at all of this, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. I think that it's nice to get these behind the scenes things and having people just be really open about it. I think they would get a lot less flack if more things were like that. I get they don't have time all the time to just be like, this is what we're doing. But having maybe a handful of these every once in a while would be really nice. Like after a nice update, after one of these random videos, just be like, yeah, look, here's a little bit of insight. And then that's it. People would be like, oh, wow, look, they're thinking about this. They're really putting time. They're putting effort. And we would get less riled up because you're not wrong. They get so much hate and so much like aggravation, Yeah. And it just, I like these personally.
Good. Yeah, I do as well. He went on to say that working in vanilla often feels like trying to recapture the magic of Minecraft all over again. And, it's hard to put in that amount of polish and fine tuning to come up with something as iconic as the creeper. And absolutely, yeah. How can you recreate these? You can't, can you? If you could recreate iconic stuff like that, everyone would do it. And everything would be iconic and memorable. And it's one of those things that when the magic happens and it hits just right, you get something amazing. Imagine that being your job. You've got to come up with that. How much pressure are you under for that? And I think for most people, maybe they've got like one defining moment in their life when they come up with something, that one thing. But to repeat that over and over again as your job, it's an impossible task. Nobody could be expected to do that, surely.
They'd just be chasing it forever.
Exactly. And can you imagine the mental strain on you? Okay, I did this really cool thing. I created this, the Warden, everybody loved it. Now I've got to follow that up and I can't do it. That'd be the world's worst writer's block, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So the other thing he touched on was he said it was tough to create the Warden because it's really hard trying to find the balance of horror in Minecraft. What level of horror is acceptable? They said that the first iterations focused too much on horror that's not Minecraft-y, and they pointed out that Minecraft doesn't have gore or explicit sources of disgust or mechanics that purposely try to scare you. I would argue that spider noises
are awful. They're awful.
For anybody is it phasmophobia? What's what am I thinking of? The sound one. No, not the. What's when people have? I've got it. When like eating noises. And
I forget what that's called.
It's not phobia. There's a something. Basically, some people are triggered by certain sounds, which have been now scientifically proven that they trigger an anger response. And I get that with people's eating mouth noises and spider noises, which seem, the Minecraft spider noises, basically those sort of, they sound a little bit like mouth noises. And that's a common one that people that suffer from that get. And Yeah, so I would say that unknowingly, Minecraft has that noises already in the game. They are specific sources of disgust. So, yeah, but no, I get the point with them there. He then goes on to say that the Warden makes you scared of what you don't know, basically by using darkness, not being able to see, and focusing on sound design. That's where much more of the horror is coming from, the actual sound design. So
yeah.
I like this. I like the fact that they've gone, hey, we're going to make you feel uncomfortable. We're going to take away your vision and we're going to make these horrid sounds in your ears. But I don't know. Is that going to be enjoyable?
I feel like it will be, not like a one-off, but when it first comes out, it's going to be amazing. Everyone's going to love it. Everyone's going to like making videos of it. We'll use something like a brightness pack. We'll do post editing, but everyone's going to love it. It's going to make for great content. And then you're never going to go back. Especially if it's not tied to something like the end. You're going to go there the one time, you're going to do the thing, and then you're just going to be like, I've done this before. And I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm nothing at all. Like, nothing says you have to enjoy everything all the time. And I think that there's nothing wrong with adding something that is a one-off experience, I guess.
No, absolutely not. And to the only thing, again, we don't know much about this. Maybe the reward that's hiding behind the Warden, the thing he is guarding, is worth it. Maybe there's reason to keep going down there. Maybe there's something absolutely amazing. But I kind of feel like with when we first got Ocean Monuments and Guardians, mining fatigue, that was fun. Never. That was never, ever fun. You don't go and kill the Elder Guardians for their treasure, i.e. the sponges and the gold blocks. You go because you want to turn that into a farm.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Or maybe you do go for the sponges, but you're certainly not going for those 4 blocks of gold, are you, in the center of the Ocean Monument? It's not worth it, is it, to go through all of that pain of the mining fatigue and dealing with those characters. So I do worry that the Warden's going to be this big, huge thing. It's amazing, but then, like you say, you go to it once and go, it's a bit, okay, well, let's just not bother in the future. The thing I've written at the bottom of these notes for this news article is delaying again, ? It made me wonder, now that they keep talking about the Warden, there's loads and tweets about it, but the fact that they were talking over and over again about all of the stuff they've gone through, how hard it is, how long it's been, is this a way of going, hey guys, we're just going to put it on hold again for a little bit longer because it's really hard? Or is this them finally going, hey, this is ready now, we're really going to get you hyped up for it, let's do this? What do you think?
I think that could go either way. I would not be shocked if they postpone it again for a little bit, but I think they're trying to hype it up. Just like, if I'm going with my gut, I feel like they're trying to hype it up. It's coming and they're trying to get everyone excited for it. But again, would not be shocked if it is the opposite. If they're like, not ready.
If they do, at the end of the day, I don't mind, but it would be nice if it does come this time. And there's one more thing I haven't written in the notes that I thought was interesting from those videos, and that was in the video that they put out, they played a mossy cobble guitar that the Warden then danced to the music of, right? Basically, it was a joke about a musical instrument, and I'm thinking, goat horns? It's a horn. It's a musical instrument. Are they saying, is there a link there? Is this me looking way too much into it? I've always said that I think the goat horn is the thing that scares away the Warden or makes it back off or something. Is this like, hey, musical instruments, something to do with the Warden? Or am I just hoping too much?
No, you know what's funny is when I was watching it, right? And they had the little section where they randomly put him in a bow tie and gave him the cane. And I was thinking, putting on the Ritz, you know?
Yeah.
And my first thought was, okay, so music is going to soothe it. Like, music is going to calm it down. And I was like, okay, but are you going to bring a jukebox down there? Like, that doesn't seem right. And then they got to the part with the instrument. And all I was thinking was, okay, I feel, yes, I feel like there has to be some sort of music thing. So it's not just you. That was where my brain went to. I don't know if we are totally off our rockers and we just want it to be more exciting than it is. But that is where my thought went, was there's a music tie in here somewhere. And like, they're just hinting at it.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it from that way around. Note blocks, some of the note blocks, or not some of the note blocks, sorry, some blocks that you put note blocks on, I can't remember which one, make it sound like a guitar, don't they? Like a little banjo thing. Maybe you've got to do note blocks. I think it's on hay bales, isn't it, that make it sound like that? So
yeah, it might be.
That could be really interesting. That would be very, very fun if that's the case. If we can actually have dancing wardens.
Oh my goodness.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Right. Anyway, moving on from the news, we are going into the bug date. Jessiie, what's bugging you this week?
For me, I have been having flickering mountains.
Amazing.
I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but probably since the last update, I've just been getting random visual glitches. It's when I'm flying, it's when I'm standing, it's just randomly whenever I look at a mountain and there is a snow layer and there is stone. So it does not matter where it is, anywhere where there is snow touching stone, I get random flickering mountains. And it is so weird.
When you say flickering, is this the like when the whole chunk goes missing and you can see through into the underworld and then you have to change like your angle of that you're looking at slightly and it comes back again? Or is it just literally like flickering like really quick, like a light bulb kind of type thing?
It's a little more than a light bulb. It's like, it's a full like span. So I'll look at it and it will like out of the corner, like as I'm turning, it'll go black. Like, so it'll go black and then it'll come back and it'll go black again. So it's like, it's literally like a flicker. So it's not see-through. It goes black, specifically black. It's weird.
And is that's just that one black block that's got the snow with the stone on it, or is it the whole mountain?
No, it could be like a whole, sometimes it's like 5 blocks, sometimes it's 3 blocks. It totally changes, but it is the whole line. So wherever there is a line of snow and stone, like the 2 separate ones, that little section of 6 blocks, 5 blocks, whatever it is, it just goes black and then comes back. One of these days, I'm going to catch it.
Yeah, get it on video. Have you updated your graphics card drivers recently, is what I was going to say there.
I have.
Oh. Well.
Yeah. No idea. Yeah, because I pointed it out. And so we updated my whole computer setup. And we're like, okay, maybe it's just me. Nope, still there.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not even going to go into visual glitches with Bedrock Edition at the minute. Have you? It's not just minecarts either. Have you seen what's happening with the minecarts when you're from a distance? They can appear in like so far away from where they're supposed to be. But I noticed it there was a chicken jumping up and down in my stream, trying to get out of my stream. The further I got away, the higher it was jumping. Like visually, it was like going over skyscrapers. The closer I got, the more it was there. And I think this is, they put in some code into Bedrock a while ago, which was to do with basically making entities more lag friendly. And there was this basically code that I can't remember the name of it now, but it's in the behavior packs for the entities. They added it all in. And that's when we started getting villagers that were not where they were. Do you remember we were getting villagers that were like floating? Oh, yeah. And sometimes there was an entity, you could see it, but it was actually somewhere else. And we were getting invisible creepers and all sorts of stuff. So they didn't remove that code, but internally in the game engine, they turned it off and things went back to normal. I believe they've turned it back on again now. And I think this is what's happening is the game is the further away you get from an entity, the game's going, let's not process this quite as much. Let's just like cut down how much processing we're doing of this entity. And clearly, like visually, they're going, oh, well, you're further away, so you're probably not going to notice that minecart going to the moon and back. And I think they've maybe just not got it quite right or might quite tweaked right. Because the actual entity itself is exactly where it should be physically.
It's just visual.
Just visually.
That's crazy.
It is absolutely ridiculous. Jeez. So my bug, I don't know if it's a bug or not. Me and you have touched on this briefly before the podcast started, and that is that since we've moved the hosting of Truly Bedrock over to Nodecraft, I am being relatively regularly just kicked from the game for no particular reason. It seems to happen more when I'm actually idle than when I'm playing. Sometimes it's when I'm playing. And then I can't get back in. I have to actually shut Minecraft off and then start it again to get back in, which is really bizarre. And it's not one of the... I know there's an option in the server properties to have a server timeout. So if you're AFK, you can have players being kicked out after a certain amount of time. We don't have that enabled. We've got that set to 0, which means we can AFK for as long as we want. It's just happening randomly, and it's not just me it's happening to either.
Yeah, no. It's happened to me quite a few times. I know it's happened to Dadcraft. Like, it's so weird. And yeah, like you said, I don't know if it's like a bug that everyone's experiencing or it's just us, but it happens frequently enough that it's annoying.
It is annoying, yeah. It's maybe happened to me this week 2 or 3 times, which isn't much, but when you're in the middle of recording something and all of a sudden you're disconnected, it is really frustrating. And I don't know, it could be just like it's maybe a ping thing. Maybe all of a sudden there's a big network spike or a massive amount of latency and we're getting kicked for that reason, because it's not everybody getting kicked at the same time. It's just you. And then it could be that it's because we're on a Linux version of the BDS now, whereas before we were running on Windows. So maybe that's got something to do with it, or it might just be, I've no idea. So I don't know if it's a bug within the game or not, but it's frustrating me and it's bugging me. So it's gone into Bugdate because otherwise I haven't really come across anything this week particularly bad. But then this week I have mainly been focusing on decorating and landscaping, so I haven't really been fiddling with things too much to have too many bugs. I died, Jessie, after all of the jokes I've been making in my videos about dying in creative mode. I touched the ground ever so lightly like a feather and exploded because it said I hit the ground too hard. That was annoying, but
oh no.
I don't mind dying really, because you get an avatar now, and I've died 7 times, so I should have 7, but I've only got 1. So someone's been nicking my avatars, and I don't know who it is. Maybe Mr. Beardstone been putting them in his inflatable shop. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I went from 4 deaths the other day to 11. And that was fun.
Yeah. What was
Not
your old wither?
Yeah. I fought a wither and I don't know what was going on. Don't know if it was my ping or what, but that thing was zooming all over the place and I died. I died so many times. It was unfortunate. To me, dying has never really been a big deal. I don't get all sore about it or anything, but it was such a drastic change that I was kind of like, well, who cares now? Yeah.
I totally understand that. You get to a certain point, you're trying to do well, you're trying to have not many deaths just because it's like a little challenge to yourself, and then you hit a certain threshold and just like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, yep, that was past 10. All right. Now no one cares. It's fine. Just Jessie dolls for everyone.
Oh, poor Jessie. Jeez. Right. Well, if we've got no other bugs and things to talk about, then we're going to have to go straight into questions, I believe. So,
nice.
There's a bit of feedback in with the questions because there was, well, I don't know, it's a bit weird. There wasn't anything from my Discord that was really a questions. That all went in Discord in the feedback section, and I don't know. I was lazy putting the documents together this morning. All right, I'm going to admit it. We didn't get any questions from the comments. They all went into feedback. So all of the questions this week are from the emails. And we've got some big old multi-pager ones. In fact, we've got 1, 2, 3 from Tyler, which take up pretty much most of this. So, geez. And the first email is from Extreme Game DNA, and it says, "Hey y'all, I was listening to the Spawn Chunks on Monday, and someone sent an email about changing up the villager trades with the new blocks from 1.17 to 1.19. I've been wanting a new villager ever since the bee update, the beekeeper. His trades would include emeralds for honey and bottles of beeswax, and later in his trades you could get bee nests or something along those lines. I know that we recently, Village and Pillage, got updates to them, but in 1.17 they made minor changes to the masons to allow dripstone blocks. I know Foxy can't stand villagers and probably hates the idea, but what are your thoughts on this? Thanks for a great pod, Clay H, aka Extreme Gay DNA. Well, first of all, the Spawn Chunks, if you don't know, is a different podcast, Clay. Jeez. My goodness me. Now, that's run by Pixel Riffs and Joel Duggan, and it's absolutely fantastic podcast. I absolutely would 100% recommend listening to it. If you haven't heard of it, go and check it out. But yeah, that's not what that's about. That's about having a beekeeper villager. What do you think, Jessie?
I would like new types of villagers. I've never been a huge fan of villagers in general. I think they're a pain in the tuchus. But I think having a new type with all of the new millions of blocks that we have is not a bad idea.
I agree, but I also disagree. It's not a difficult thing to farm bees. It's actually really ridiculously easy to farm bees. So I don't really see any need to have a bee villager. What I'd like, really, if I'm being honest, is that if villagers actually did the jobs that they are supposed to do, so that you could have free-range villagers. Like farmer villagers do jobs. They actually will farm. It's great. Why can't we have a woodcutter villager that goes and chops trees down so you can put him in a fenced-off area so he can't escape and go and chop down the entire world's worth of trees? But when you have, like, grow trees there, he'll chop them down and put the items in a chest or something like that. It would be really nice if there were more to villagers in that sense. But I don't really see a need to have villagers at all, to be perfectly honest with you. I know they do serve a purpose. They make certain blocks that are hard to get renewable. I know they're good for XP, and I know they're good for enchanted tools and pickaxes. But you don't need them in the game at all. Without villagers, you're not going to lose out on anything. You just make certain things harder to get hold of, particularly iron from iron farms. I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. I think if I wanted any change from villagers, it would just be for them not to despawn or not disappear. That would be what I'd like the most. I'd like them to be reliable.
That's totally fair. Having a more reliable villager, I think, is absolutely top priority. Would love it. But I think in general, I don't mind having different types.
Or do you know what would be better? I would like a villager that would, when it's locked onto its workstation, that was guaranteed. It's not going to go and try and find a different one or anything like that. And it will only work or wander within a radius of that workstation. It will never go outside of that radius for that workstation, unless for some reason it falls down a hole or something like that. And it's unavoidable. But that way, you could create an actual village in your base, and you could put a workstation in an area and build a house around it, and you know that villager's not going to just wander off. And you don't have to put doors and gates and things everywhere to hold them in. You would know that villager is going to stay in that area. And then you've got, and I don't like to use this term, but you've got less slaves then and more actual just people working, villagers working. And surely, like, Mojang want to get away from that. That's one of the reasons they won't allow us to have villagers on leads or allow us to lure them with items, is they don't want to sort of recreate the whole slavery side of things within a game. But we do. That's exactly what we do. We put them in the hole. We put them to work. We make them give us stuff. We lock them in. Let's have free-range villagers by having them more reliable when they're fixed to what they should be doing. And I think that would work, because then you're like, oh, that villager wants to go to that workstation. He wants to live in that house and live there. And I think it'd be more pleasant all around, really.
I definitely agree with you.
Good. Okay, what's the next email?
Torello. Torello? I think. Is that how you would say that? Torello? Sorry, I am terrible at name pronunciation. So if I have, butchered your name, I apologize. In the last podcast, I think mentioned you were hosting Truly Bedrock on Linux. Have you noticed a performance difference moving from Windows to Linux? Thank you for the entertainment, Torello.
It's hard to tell because from my perspective, I lived in the house with the server before. So I had instant connection. My ping was like 2 to 3 milliseconds at worst. I never suffered from any lag. I never had lag spikes. I never had blocks pinging back. I didn't have any problems digging or flying or anything like that, but the other members did. So I'm probably not the best person to answer. Moving to Linux, for me, for sure, I have noticed a performance decrease because I'm no longer sat next to the server. So I do get lag spikes. I do get bits where the blocks don't come back immediately. I do get things like that. But on the most part, it's been absolutely fine. We have reduced the render distance a reasonable amount in order to make sure that we don't have any lag early doors and making sure that we're all having a good time with it. And I know some members have got a better ping and some, Jessiie, have got a worse ping since we've moved it. You're probably a better person to ask because you're living at it from a distance anyway. How do you feel it's changed?
So I am pretty much exactly half a world away. Like I am pretty nearly half the distance from you. Yeah. And the rest of the world. So anyway, point of that being, I'm about as far away as you can get. And when you had the server, I had a much smoother experience. I have noticed since we have moved, I am more laggy. I have more random connection issues. I've definitely noticed a difference. However, I believe I'm in the minority. So it could just be because I am half a world away that I have issues. But personally, I have felt it. I have felt the crunch.
Yeah, it's a funny one because depending on which Truly Bedrock member you speak to, there is a different response. A lot of people have said, oh no, my ping's much better. I'm getting less lag now, which is interesting. So I think it's a bit hit and miss. I don't think we could categorically say one way or another it's worse on Linux than it is on Windows in our experience with this. But we're really sort of spoiled in the regards that we've got a dedicated server to run it on. We're not running on like a cheap or like a VPS, which is shared with other servers and things as well. So we do have a nice experience with it to start with, and we've got the flexibility to do with it what we want in terms of render distance and connection and that sort of thing. So
it's brilliant.
I think the real test of this will be when the season gets a bit older. We're still only really a month or two in. When we're 6 months in and there's lots more going on at spawn and people have got more farms and there's entities everywhere, I think that's when we'll really start to see a difference between Windows and Linux. Because for me, like I say, having that connection directly to the server in my house, even though it was running on a server, didn't matter what stage we were at in the system. I never had any lag. It was fine. Unless there was something horrendously bad going on in the world, like Mr. Beardstone not realizing that entity cramming was a thing on Bedrock Edition when he built his drowned farm. That dragged the whole server to a standstill. Yes, I got the lag then, but generally speaking, like latency-based lag or ping-based lag, I don't notice any of. And when the server is struggling a little bit, I certainly didn't notice at my end. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see as time goes on.
Yeah, definitely.
Brett says, hey guys, been enjoying the pod, especially the peek behind the curtain for content creation. I run a server for my kid and their friends and myself. Foxy, as the TB admin, do you have any content pertinent, don't know what that word means, for server admins? Or would you consider making tutorials to help a novice beginner admins add new features to the server, specifically things like AFK accounts and keeping a scoreboard? Another question for Foxy, have you or would you consider open sourcing your chunk pruner? Since you've stated you don't have time to devote to it, would you consider open sourcing any of your other tools? Thanks for all of the wonderful content you provide, Brett. Okay, first question then is, would I consider making tutorials to help people? I have a whole bunch of admin videos and tutorials on Bedrock Edition servers. I've got videos on Truly Bedrock of when we did world upgrades and admin and all that sort of stuff on servers. If you look back through my channel, you will see a selection of things like that. I can't go into detail on every single thing because your server experience is going to be completely unique to you. I don't know what things you would like to be added to it. You said specifically things like AFK accounts and keeping a scoreboard. An AFK account is just another device with another Minecraft account that you add to the whitelist. So there's nothing any different there to add in any other player. Keeping a scoreboard, well, you're opening a whole big kettle of fish there, a massive bag of worms, or can of worms, sorry. Bag of worms. I quite like a bag of worms, please. That'd be gross, wouldn't it? Blech. Yeah, if you check out, just look online for scoreboard tutorials and how to do scoreboards, because that's nothing to do with the server. That's just the game itself. That's an add-on. So check that out. And I do have a video on how to add add-ons to servers. So, you know, once you've figured out how you're going to make your scoreboards work, you can watch that video, figure out how to get those on your server. As opposed to the other question, have you or would you consider open sourcing your stuff? I've considered it, but I don't know anything about open source stuff is my biggest sort of issue here. I know a lot of people use GitHub for projects and things, and I believe that allows people to work on your stuff and even like create forks of your original content to create their own with. And I know it also allows people to take your code and use it in their own thing without permission as well. I don't see any reason to open what I've done up to open source, because I don't want to have to then deal with other people asking me, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do the other? And I don't want to have to deal with the stresses of then when I find out someone else has stolen my code and rebranded it and done something else. I call me selfish and call me old fashioned, but I've worked hard to create those things. They work perfectly fine. They don't need any extra development from my perspective. And if they did, you know, feel free to start from scratch and build your own. You don't need to build off what I've already created, because really what I've done is a very, very small, tiny little thing. It's not like I've created a massive piece of software that does all of these crazy things and you're wishing it had this one extra feature. I've created something tiny that's got hardly any features. If you want to recreate that, go for it. Make a new one and put in what you want to do to it and make yours open source. I don't feel the need to do that, but that is probably because I don't feel like I know very much about it. Jessiie, you got any input on this one?
I think that kind of stuff is always really hard, because you've put in all this time and all this effort. And while I get people wanting things to continue when you don't have time, it's a really personal thing. It seems, I can't imagine personally that something I worked on, I would want to just be like, yeah, anyone who wants to can do it. It just seems almost like piggybacking off of something, when if you want something done, just, you know, put the time in and do it yourself kind of thing. Yeah, that's just, I guess my opinion is it would feel really weird.
Yeah, I think
open source things.
I think that's it. I came from a background of being taught from a young age to stand on your own feet and make your own way. Don't rely on other people's stuff. Don't use other people's stuff. Don't try and get a quick jump up the ladder. If you put in the work, you know, you'll get rewarded. And that's what I've always done. So I wouldn't go, okay, there's the piece of software that somebody's already written. Let me just take that and change it and make my own thing. I'd go, right, okay, I have a problem. I need to solve this problem. How do I go about doing that? And I'd start from the beginning. And that's just how I am. Maybe that's a wrong way of doing it. Maybe it's not a very efficient way of doing it. Maybe it's an old-fashioned way of doing it. I don't know. But that's how I am, and that's how my mind works. So it makes me feel really uneasy to think that I would just hand everything out to the void of the rest of the world and just hope that everybody out there is a really nice person and a good person and is going to treat it with respect, when I know from being a content creator that, you know, awful people exist. People that are quite happy to just steal your stuff and take credit for it exist, and they're out there. And as soon as you're handing this thing out, they're just taking it, snatching it out of your hands, and they're then getting the credit and the good stuff for all of the work that you put in. And that feels wrong to me. So yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm really against the idea of it. Perhaps wrongly. Maybe someone could take the time to explain how it would be of a benefit to me and other people at some point, and maybe I could listen to that. I'm open to listening to it, but from what I do know about it, no thank you.
That's fair. The first of many Tyler comments. We have, hey Slack and Foxy, just wanted to start by saying, and I know I am a little late to this, hope your recovery from surgery goes smoothly, Slack. I'll be praying for you. I wanted to say that y'all are doing great. The length of each episode is pretty long, yeah, but it's worth listening to. I'd rather listen to a podcast that averages about 2 hours on each episode that is good as opposed to a half hour or an hour long episode on a podcast that is no good. Glad y'all enjoy doing what y'all do. I enjoy the conversations y'all have. In response to something Slack said in a previous episode, I wanted to ask, is it hard for you two to be doing this? I mean, y'all both said that you're basically doing streaming, podcasting, and all the things that come with it as basically a 24/7 thing. Not saying that you will, but if you do it too much, you may get burned out. I also know that y'all have both said that y'all enjoy doing all that. Some things more than others, of course, but I did want to ask. Anyways, love the show. Keep up the great work, y'all. Purple Fox or Tyler. Wow.
Jeez. When people write y'all in actual writing, it just blows my mind. I know that's how certain people speak, but like, it's one of those weird things. Like if you're from the UK, some people say something instead of something. You know, you would never write that. You wouldn't write something in your writing. So see y'all, like there's like 50 million y'alls in that paragraph. And every time I see it, it's taking my attention from what you're saying. I don't think I actually heard anything that you read there because I'm just focusing on this y'alls.
Did you hear how hard it was for me?
Yeah, I know, I'm so sorry, Jessiie.
No, it's okay. My brain was just, I mean, it's a word. It's a word that's in the dictionary now.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. So
wow.
It's not completely jarring for me, but it is because English and my brain is like you all.
Yeah, exactly.
So every time I see y'all, I just want to say you all. But
yeah.
It's too hard to do while reading. So in any case, the idea is they're worried about you burning out.
Right. Okay.
Because you have a lot on your plate. So is that something that you worry about?
Yeah, I think everybody worries about burning out. At the end of the day, there's no difference from doing this to any other job or any other self-employed job, should I say. Having a 9-to-5 job's nice and easy generally. It can be a really hard job. It can be an awful job, and it can be not an easy job and you get paid hardly any money for it. But at the end of the day, you go home and you can switch off from it because it's not your job. It's actually you're working for somebody else. They're paying your wages, and providing you do what you're supposed to be doing, whether or not you put in a good week or a bad week, you're generally going to get paid with it. So there might be a horrible stress of a horrible job and a low pay packet, and you might be wondering how you're going to afford certain things each month, but you don't have the stresses of that company keep going. You've got that confidence that, I'm going to keep getting paid. So at least I can work with that. I think any job that means you're self-employed or content creation or otherwise, or running a business, means that you're constantly thinking about it all the time from all angles. How am I going to get paid? What do I need to do? How can I better this? How can I make it more stable? And you never know, one month to the next. Like I was really pleasantly surprised yesterday when I got my payout from Google. So my payout from Google pays me for advertising revenue from my website and from my YouTube earnings. And it paid out for December. And I nearly fell off my chair when I realized how good December was for me. It's I'm not making mega money or anything, but it was twice as much as what I got in November, and it's 3 times as much as what I'm on, forecast to get in January. So it was really nice to get a big pay packet. It's still just barely covering my bills, but it was nice, but it was unexpected. And then I look at that on contrast to January and go, wow, okay, I'm glad I got that, because January I'm getting hardly anything from, so I'm going to have needed that to go forward. So I don't think burning out is necessarily the biggest worry, because that's just if you choose a job that is a 24/7 thing, whether it's content creation or otherwise, that's the life choice you're making, and you need to be prepared and able to do that. Before I was YouTube content creating, I've been running businesses, nothing to do with YouTube content creation or anything like that, for nearly 10 years. So I'm sort of in the mindset that I know roughly where I am, what I'm doing, and I'm capable of coping with that. The problem I have is if my workload isn't varied, if I have to do the same thing every single day, then I find it tedious and I switch off. It's not burnout.
Yeah.
I get bored. And I think there's a lot of, with content creation on YouTube and Minecraft particularly, there's a big confusion across the board with people just getting bored and people actually getting burnout. Burnout is when you're putting in too many hours in the day, you're not looking after yourself correctly, you're tired and you just can't go on. Being bored is when you do too much of the same thing and you get fed up with it because nothing new's coming from it. You're not getting any good response from your feedback from your community, or maybe you're not getting new good response from your feedback and you just get fed up with it. That's not burnout. That's just doing the same thing over and over again. The reason why we do different things is we try and keep things as varied as much so we don't suffer from getting bored from it, which is why we do a podcast and live streaming and content creation and all the other things that I do as well, so I can vary what I'm doing. If I was just making Let's Play videos, I would get bored and I would give up and I would put no effort in. I never suffer from burnout unless I'm really, really fed up and down in the dumps. I had a bit of a depression the end of last year. It's been on and off since then, but I'm coping with it now. And then I don't feel I had burnout. I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't want to. I didn't see the point. I don't think I've really actually experienced burnout where I'm so tired that I can't go on, but I'm not crazy like Jessiie B or Slack who stay up all night long putting hours and hours and hours into Minecraft. I go to bed at a decent time of day. I make sure I get 8 to 9 hours sleep a night. I make sure I have plenty of breaks during the day. I make sure I go out and walk the dog and I do the jobs around the house. And Minecraft really does get a very small amount of playtime than everything else. Yes, I work a lot of hours. Yes, we do a lot of live streaming, a lot of content creation, but for me it's varied, so there's no stress there. It's not hard. It's not creating burnout. But Jessiie B is the opposite to me, so she's a perfect person to give a counter to that argument.
I feel so called out, but yeah, absolutely. Do you remember season 2 when I had just had Evie?
Yes.
I had Evie, and that week we started season 2. So I maybe was 5 days postpartum, and I went nuts. I got home from the hospital, and we recorded that season 2 nether exploration at 4 a.m. I had no sleep. Yeah, episode 0. And I was so tired from that moment until until probably 6 months in to season 2, I think. I went nonstop. I was going from probably 11 p.m. at night to 2 or 3 a.m. and recording, and then being up with the kids. And Ethan wasn't even in school yet. So I was just burning the candle at both ends. I hit that 6-month mark and I could not function. I was so burnt out. I could not look at the computer. I could not look at Minecraft without physically being ill. I was so tired. And that is nobody's fault but my own. Nobody on TV was like, you really need to get more episodes out, Jessiie. In fact, I think everyone at that point was like, what are you doing? Stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I got this. It's fine, guys. I was not fine. And I took, I think, 2 months off. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not touching anything. Took 2 months off and came back, I think, the week before we ended. So that week before we ended, I recorded everything. I think we actually recorded the season finale a week or weeks ahead for me, because I was like, I'm not touching anything. I need a break. And they were kind and did it. But after that, I realized no more. That was the, okay, you do too much. You need to stop. And I have been pacing myself ever since to try and not burn out.
Yeah, it's such a tricky thing to do, especially when you see people around you that seemingly are putting more time into it than you are. Even though they're probably not. They're probably just doing it differently to what you're doing. Or they maybe got more free time because they don't have 2 young kids running about and a partner and, have to deal with all of the household chores as well. There's everybody's got different experiences and different setups and different levels of priority as well. It doesn't help doing content creation that companies like YouTube and Twitch put a pressure on you to keep going, and they make you feel like you have to. And if you are the type of person that's susceptible to that, then yes, a lot of people have. I hate the word imposter syndrome. It's one of those words that it's a trigger word for me that I just think it gets used way too much. It covers too many grounds, and I see so many sort of self-proclaimed mental health analysts out there on Twitter and Discord telling everybody that someone else has got imposter syndrome. It annoys me. Anyway, rant aside, those sorts of things where you feel like you're not keeping up or you're not good enough or you need to try harder. If you're one of those people, then you're going to probably be more likely to suffer from burnout than most people, because you look around you and you go,
trying.
Yeah. Oh, that person's put out 3 videos this week. How can they possibly do that? I've only put out 1. I didn't even put out 1 last week. And so I'm falling behind and have to try harder and harder. What you got to remember and what you got to focus on is you. Take a step back from everybody else and what everyone around you is doing and go, what suits me? What are my priorities? What do I need to do to enjoy this, which is the most important thing, and be as consistent as possible? Consistent doesn't mean every day. Consistent doesn't mean every week. Consistent doesn't mean every month. Look at the Slow-Mo Guys YouTube channel. They perhaps put out a video maybe once every couple of months at the moment, if you're lucky. But each video is consistent in its quality, in its production, and it gets really, really good amount of views. That obviously makes them a lot of money, and their channel isn't losing subscribers hand over fist. They're not shrinking, they're still growing, and they're still getting recognized. Consistency is a really vague word that doesn't cover really what it should be. So you really need to just look at everything from your perspective. How can I enjoy this while maintaining a good level of quality? What is suitable for me? And if that means you do 1 video a week, fine. If it means you do 1 video a month, fine. It doesn't matter. It's absolutely fine. There's no pressure on you to do more than that. Only the pressures you put on yourself. So burnout's really easy to avoid by just focusing on what you need from it or what you can do and not pushing past that. And I'm going to call Slack out now. He's going to hate me for doing this, but Slack is the number 1 person to keep taking on more and more and more. Now, Slack is in a very fortunate position most of the time because he is effectively single, as in he doesn't live in a house full of kids and wives and you know people like that. He's got a lot of free time. He's in a relationship, but I mean that's complicated. Let's not go down that road. The fact is Slack has a lot of time he can dedicate to Minecraft and content creation, and he chooses to do that because that's what he enjoys doing. It is his priority. But I often see Slack saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to take on more and more and more. And I urge Slack, no way, just don't take on too much. Just be careful that you set a bar for yourself that you can't keep up with. And to be fair to Slack, most of the time he cracks on with it and he carries on. And he's brilliant at doing that. I don't know how he does it. I think I set my expectations for myself a lot lower than that, and I aim a lot lower. And I think I pretty much hit the goals that I try, or at least I want to hit. I always feel like I want to do more and I need to do more, but I'm realistic about how much I actually do. Does that make sense?
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah, always.
Really? So since the beginning of your channel, you've just given yourself like realistic things. I've noticed over I don't know, the past year or two, getting to know more content creators. I know a bunch of people who they're well into it. Like you've been at Minecraft and at content creating for many years now. What did you say your channel's like?
8 years
7?
now, yeah.
Oh, 8 years old. And a bunch of my other friends, they're 10 years in, they're 6 years in, and they talk about how in the beginning they were all over the place, but now they've hit their rhythm. And I'm just like, I've realized I expect so much more of myself trying to keep up with these people who are years in. And I'm just like, oh yeah, wait, I started not very long ago. And I think that's something that I've had to keep reminding myself of is I'm new at this. I'm finding my rhythm. I'm finding my pace. And I think just keeping that in the back of my mind has really helped. Well, post burnout, it's helped. Knowing, okay, this is how far I've pushed myself in the past. And now I know don't do that. It's helped a lot. Like this season, I've been very self-aware of, okay, I'm not going to push too hard. I'm going to most nights go to bed at a decent hour and keep this up. And it's been so helpful, but I feel like, well, maybe when I am 5 years in, 6 years in, I'll look back at this and go, wow, that was nuts.
It is crazy. And from my perspective, I don't ever feel like I've got it sorted, or I know what I'm doing, or I have the perfect plan. And there have been, you go back to the early stages of my videos, sometimes at one point I was putting out daily videos just because I had free time, and I found a way that I could produce videos nicely and quickly, even though I was doing that part-time because I was working a full-time job and being a dad at the same time. And then sometimes I took I took nearly a year off at one point, and I took a few months off here, and then some weeks I didn't put anything out. My personality has always been, or I don't know, it hasn't always been. It sort of has been since my late 20s, I guess. I don't care what other people think, and I don't care what other people do. I am very much, as I've made a big song and dance about in my live streams and my videos, don't be a sheep. Don't look at someone else and think that's the way to do it. Find your own way. And that's not something I have to remind myself to do. I just do that. That's how I am. So I never looked at other people's channels and went, oh, that's what they're doing, so I need to do this. I just went, oh, how do I make YouTube videos and how do I upload them to YouTube? Okay, that's how you do it. So I did it, and I found my own path. And that path is naturally going to work for me because it's my own. It's come off what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. Sometimes I took on too much, and I was making too many videos, and I set a pace I couldn't keep up with. And sometimes I would have plenty of spare time and I wouldn't be putting out enough. I never perfected the balance, I guess, but it's always been suitable for me because I've always done it at my pace. I've not been bothered about what everyone else is doing. And I think that's the biggest thing that's helped me, I guess.
That's amazing. It's shockingly rare, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I don't say there's not many people like me, Jessie.
There really isn't.
Oh dear. Right, we got onto the last question now. It actually looks like there's two, but technically it's one because they added a bit on the end. Tyler again says, also, I have a little bit more feedback in regards to the idea of having a tiered hotbar. Oh, not this one again. The idea that Slack came up with where you push, let's say, for example, the number 1 slot on your keyboard multiple times and it flips through whatever you like in the 3 slots. I absolutely love that idea, and I find using the scroll wheel a whole lot easier. So what if instead of hitting the number keys multiple times, there was a hotkey to press, something like maybe the left Alt that would allow you to scroll vertically? By releasing Alt, you would then go back to horizontal and scroll through your hotbar. Just an idea. I love your idea of having hotbar like that. One more thing to add, I would kind of like the end portal in the deep dark cities and either make the stronghold look like the surrounding area of the deep dark, could just get rid of the... I'm sure there was a question here. I've put it in question, so there must have been. Maybe not. Tyler, sorry for cutting your message short, but it did go on for 3 weeks. At the end, it says, can you put a link in the description? So to the song you use for the intro and outro, I can't seem to find the song. When I search for it on Storyblocks, there isn't anything. And when I Google it, all I get is a bunch of car engine websites. That's right. Unfortunately, Tyler, I did look after last week's show. It was asked for that I would put the name of the song in the description. It's been removed from Storyblocks. I don't know why. That's where I got it from. I guess the artist that made the song no longer wants to advertise it on there. Maybe they weren't getting enough money from it, or maybe they got a better offer from somewhere like Epidemic Sound or something like that instead. I don't know. So I'm sorry, but yeah, that song's all gone, mate. Would like to add anything about the song, Jessiie?
I don't know what song they're referring to.
The one at the beginning of the podcast that plays.
Oh, I didn't know that was from it. Like
yeah.
Anything. I mean, it's a good one.
Yeah. So sadly, yeah, I can't give you that song. Anyway, right. It feels a bit weird, but that's it. We're at the end, Jessiie. We're at the end of today's podcast. How's it gone for you?
This one, okay. For as little as there was, it feels really like we talked a lot.
We did, didn't we? We've done good waffling today. We've done good waffling.
Yeah.
Before we go, though, I do want to just touch on our socials quickly. I will be streaming on Mondays, as usual, on YouTube from around about 10 a.m. GMT, and also on Twitch on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. GMT on twitch.tv/FoxyNoTail. I will also be putting out regular videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays on my YouTube channel. Slack, I don't know what his stream schedule is at the moment because he's still not very well, but he was doing daily streams around about 4 to 6 p.m. EST and putting out YouTube videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. Jessiie, have you got a schedule at the moment? Have you got videos coming out?
My videos come out every Monday, and then some like every other Friday. Basically depends on how I'm feeling. But my stream schedule is Tuesdays and Thursdays, generally at 9 p.m. PST.
Nice. Okay, well, make sure to check those out, and I will put the links to all of those in the description below so you can check those out. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email at us theminecraftupdatepod@gmail.com, or you can catch any of us on our respective Discords or on Twitter. Again, links for all of those are in the description below. Thank you all very much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.